Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for Wednesday, the 19th of July, 2017. Looking in the Atlantic Basin, we will take a look today at what's happening in this region, especially in the wake of Tropical Storm Don that moved through very quickly and died away very quickly. I'll also take a look at what's going on in the Pacific with all of these different systems from Fernanda over here, which is steadily weakening as it moves off to the west and northwest very slowly, and then Tropical Depression 8E may still try to become a tropical storm. We'll have to see about that. And then Tropical Storm Greg, and then another system with a pretty decent shot of developing over the next several days. Looking at the visible satellite animation here of the Atlantic Basin this morning and afternoon, this would be the remnants of Don moving towards and just to the north of the ABC Islands here, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. It moved through the southern windwards here and brought Trinidad especially some very heavy rainfall, resulting in some fairly substantial flooding. And it's a good thing that the Saharan dust, which you can see the outline of right through here, the leading edge of it, and it just extends all the way back to the coast of Africa. A good thing that it was there, and that the pressures were maybe a little bit higher than we have seen in the past month or so. June, the sea level pressures through this region were below normal, but it kept the tropical storm from becoming stronger, which was, it was bad enough with the rainfall in Trinidad especially, and elsewhere down in the Windward Islands, but at least it wasn't stronger from a wind perspective. Now this is Invest Area 96L, and again, with all this dry, stable air around it, it probably won't do too much, and I don't think that it'll move towards the Windward Islands in any organized fashion either, so you folks there can get a chance to dry out. In the meantime, in the Pacific, as I mentioned, we do have the spinning down hurricane here, Fernanda, and this is going to continue to move off to the northwest. It will not be an issue for Hawaii, so no worries there. This is TD8, and you can see that the outflow from Fernanda impacting this pretty substantially, so this may not develop more. We'll see. And then here's Greg and another system, and none of these are forecast to affect the Baja or mainland Mexico over here, so that's good news. We'll put a check mark for that. No worries there. Again, in the Atlantic Basin, it's the Saharan air layer, and we can see that very well from the University of Wisconsin, their Cooperative Institute for Meteorological Satellite Studies. High pressure over the Atlantic and over North Africa just blasts these large air masses of dry, mid-level air, some low-level dryness as well, 5,000 feet and up, into the Atlantic Basin. And some of these outbreaks of Saharan air will contain a lot of dust that gets kicked up off the Sahara over here and ejected into the Atlantic Basin. And not until we get into the mid and latter part of August, believe it or not, does this typically start to abate and the season ramps up, climatologically speaking, at a normal time later in August. So this is perfectly normal for what we expect to see in July, and without it, considering all the activity we have seen, this would be a very, very busy season already, with probably a couple of hurricanes by now. So we owe a lot sometimes to that Saharan air, keeping things relatively in check. But even despite that, I want to emphasize again, you still had impacts from Tropical Storm Don down in the Windward Islands and Trinidad especially. So never underestimate these systems. They all have the same effects. Some are more pronounced than others, and in this case it was the rainfall. All right, well, that is it from me for today and for the rest of the week, with everything generally being quiet. I'll be back on Monday. I'm actually heading to Houston for a hurricane seminar with the company called Storm Geo, their 28th annual hurricane seminar. I will be one of the presenters tomorrow in Houston, so I get to meet and interact with a lot of other people in the business, so I'm looking very much forward to that. And then, of course, I'll be back in my office on Monday, and we'll see what happens for the week ahead. Until then, have a great rest of your several days ahead, a great rest of your Wednesday. I'm Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com, and of course for Hurricane Pro and HD. and I'll talk to you again Monday.